Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Televised Podcast. My name is Anna, and this is the second in my series of deep dive episodes. Today, I am really excited to be talking about a franchise that I adore and I love and actually just ended, which is a little bit sad, but I'm really excited to talk about Descendants today and why I think it's really important culturally right now in our political climate and just the world that we live in. And I think it's really interesting that, a Disney Channel movie could have such an impact and tell such a deep story in the way that these films have. But I'm really excited to talk about that today. But first, I wanted to let you know that we're on Spotify, and right now, at the time of recording this, I've submitted the podcast to iTunes. I hope it'll be reviewed by and published by the time this episode is up, but hopefully you could check it out. Check out the podcast on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. You can follow and leave a review on iTunes. That would really, mean the world to me and would be really cool if you did that. But yeah, so give us a listen on those platforms. I'll have them linked if you're watching on YouTube. I'll have them linked in the description below if you prefer those sources over YouTube. Okay, so anyway, back to Descendants. So this is a franchise that came out in 2015 with the first movie called Descendants, and it's about the kids of villains and how the son of Belle and the Beast believes that they deserve a chance because they were put on this island, which is literally a nightmare place. Like, it's awful. They were put on this island. The villains were their parents. Their parents were put on this island, but it's not like a jail. Like, they should have just made a jail, because it's not like a jail. It's like a full place. Like, it's like a real place that people live, and they were allowed to like hang out with each other and then have a bunch of kids and treat them terribly. So, but yeah, I probably am gonna end up doing a lot of plot summary, because in order to like describe and compare it to, today and how things work today, I am going to have to do a lot of plot summary and illustrate, just how much, how similar the things are, and so that we can examine them in the way that they deserve. But I'm going to try to keep the plot summary minimal. I'm going to try my best. So here we go. If you're anything like me, you love a good bad movie. Like a movie that's so charming and cheesy and sometimes cringy that it just combines all of its qualities together to become something that ultimately just works. Well, if that sounds like your cup of tea, you'd love the Descendants movies. These movies are Disney Channel's latest and most successful franchise to date. Just a few weeks ago, the trilogy was completed with the release of Descendants 3, which boasted a whopping 8.3 million viewers during the premiere and 15.2 million in total for the plus 3-day DVR ratings. This movie was the biggest Child's Channel telecast since the premiere of Descendants 2 years ago. Needless to say, these films are beloved by all ages, with even 2.5 million adults tuning in. You might be asking yourself, why does this matter? They're just dumb Disney Channel movies, same as High School Musical. But that's where you're wrong. Unlike High School Musical, which did have a positive message about being yourself and not letting others decide what you should be passionate about, these Descendants movies hit deep. Looking at the trilogy as a whole, it is an inspiring tale about 4 victims of child abuse sent to live in another place, essentially taken out of poverty, who eventually work to unite the privileged and the, quote, undesirables by breaking down the barrier dividing them. See what I mean? This is pretty damn deep for a Disney Channel movie. And you know what the best part is? This intense story is glittered with princesses and doused with villainy, and all tied together with a killer soundtrack each time. Now, I want to talk about each movie individually because honestly, breaking them each down by the story and stripping back the many Disney-fied layers is super interesting. In the first Descendants movie, we're introduced to a place called the Isle of the Lost, which is basically just a free-for-all jail that the princes and princesses threw all the villains in to keep them out of their hair. It's always covered by a dark cloud, totally void of magic or fresh food of any kind, littered with gangs and dirt and crime, and oh yeah, totally sealed off from the wonderland that is Auradon by a magical force field and, for good measure, a few miles of ocean. Auradon, the mainland, is the name of the unified kingdoms ruled by Adam, aka the Beast, and Belle, who, for some reason, are giving up their thrones when they're only like 30-something and crowning their 16-year-old son, Ben, king. Ben tells his parents that his first proclamation as king will be to go get 4 kids from the Isle and assimilate them into Auradon Prep, because it's not fair that they're locked up for something their parents did, and something they did not do. Then we meet those 4 kids: Mal, daughter of Maleficent; Evie, daughter of the Evil Queen; Jay, son of Jafar; and Carlos, son of Cruella de Vil. So the plot of this movie is that all the villain kids, the VKs as they're referred to in these movies, have been tasked with getting Fairy Godmother's magic wand for their parents, mainly Maleficent, while they're over in Auradon. This is where we see firsthand the poor conditions these kids live in, with their parents giving them thinly veiled threats and the kids obviously eager to leave the Isle, which we see even more of later in the movie. At one point, the VKs fear what their parents might do to them if they don't succeed in stealing this wand, and Mal says something along the lines of, we're dead meat, and you kind of genuinely believe her. There's another scene in which they're making a love potion for Mal to use on Ben, where Lonnie, Mulan's daughter, jokes, I thought even villains love their kids, right? And they all just look down, sadly, realizing that they were always just pawns and nuisances to their parents, never truly loved. Anyway, I won't detail the whole movie for you, but at the end of the film, Mal, Evie, Jay, and Carlos, all having made new lives in Auradon, they're not truly wanting to give up, take on Maleficent after she escapes the Isle. They realize that they don't want to be bad. They want to be good and have friends and play sports and go on dates. They save Auradon together. The messages in this movie are amazing, to say the least, especially because of how deep and meaningful they become when you strip away the Disney layers. For instance, the ending of the movie, the VKs defeating Maleficent with Mal's powers and their shared strength and love for each other, shows victims of abuse that you don't have to be like your parents. You can break the cycle of violence and hatred and cruelty. It gives hope to those struggling with their upbringing that they can be different. It's their choice, not predetermined fate. This is something I'm always rooting for in shows and movies. Take Lena Luthor from Supergirl. I have been rooting since season 2 when she showed up for her to not be like her family. I don't want her to go down the typical Luthor path because I want the show to prove that you aren't your family. You are your own person. And these Descendants movies do just that. Descendants, though a great movie, is my favorite. Descendants 2 holds that title, especially because of the killer soundtrack, awesome storyline, and fun new characters. The second movie picks up with Mal daydreaming in front of a bunch of reporters because, as the king's girlfriend, everyone wants to talk to her about the upcoming cotillion. She's been flooded with queenly responsibilities, and you could see that it's taking a toll on her. This movie is apparently set 3 months after the last one, which I think is a little bit cutting it close. She's 16, so is Ben. Are we sure that they should be about to be king and queen? But you know what, anyway. Doesn't matter. Anyway, Mal decides that she cannot pretend to be Ben's perfect princess anymore and leaves to go back to the Isle, where she believes she belongs. There, she runs into Uma, daughter of Ursula, Harry, son of Hook, and Gil, son of Gaston, who she is apparently enemies with. Long story short, the 3 of them kidnap Ben when he comes with the other VKs to get Mal and bring her back to Auradon. And they have an epic sword fight where Mal and the VKs come out on top. In this film, Uma is an overwhelmingly sympathetic villain. All she wants is for the barrier to come down and to unite the people of the Isle and the people of Auradon, so that the people on the Isle can have better lives. At the end of the movie, she steals Fairy Godmother's wand. Why don't they just lock that thing up already? Everybody wants to steal it, and it's always available for stealing. Can they just put it away? But anyway, She decides to try to break the barrier, but instead she grows into the giant sea monster a la Ursula and fights Mal, who turns into a dragon a la Maleficent. This movie deals with topics of being afraid someone won't love the real you, which Mal realizes that Ben does when they unveil a portrait of her with her purple hair and glowing green eyes. The VKs have an amazing scene where Carlos and Jay participate in girl talk as they try to destigmatize the idea of guys talking about feelings. Carlos says that anyone who doesn't love Mal for who she is isn't worth spending time with, and it's a great message for kids to never change who you are for someone you like. It also deals with the hurt and anger Uma and the other kids on the aisle felt after Ben only brought over the 4 villain kids. In this universe, they're essentially dreamers who got the chance to live in Oridon, while the rest of the candidates have to stay and suffer where they are, since they apparently weren't good enough to receive a better life. Another idea showcased was in Evie's storyline. While Mal wants to go back to the Isle and embrace the comfort of her old life, Evie's trying to forget hers. Carlos, Jay, and Evie just want to be normal Oridon citizens, go to school, and forget their past. They realize, though, that in order to be themselves truly, they need to mix their past with their future, be part Isle, part Oridon. This idea is a little half-baked, though, as Mal's storyline quickly overtakes the rest, but it's in there nonetheless. The ideas of friendship and kindness and acceptance are also prominent throughout, making it a great movie with an even better message. One of my favorite things about Descendants 2 is just, it feels so poignant in a way, but just fun and like such a good time, truly, to watch and to see, and I love that about this movie. Is that it's a whole lot of fun and a great songs, like seriously amazing songs. But when you're watching it, you kind of feel like the characters' emotions are kind of grounded in reality. Like even though that they're in extraordinary circumstances, obviously, you still feel like you can relate to Mal, not feeling like she belongs in this place, that she's too bad to fit in here, or that, she's grew up on the wrong side of the tracks to fit in with all the preppy kids from Oridon. And you can relate to Uma feeling like she got glanced over and was given the short end of the stick in her life when somebody else gets to go and live the dream in Oridon. The characters, though kind of ridiculous and kind of unbelievable, are grounded in reality and grounded in emotions that I think we all can relate to, which is really, really cool and is really effective about these movies, because you genuinely feel for the daughters and sons of villains and princesses and princes. It's crazy. It's awesome. So the first 2 didn't exactly hide their underlying political message, but Descendants 3 really broadcasts it in broad daylight. The third movie follows the VKs as they go to the Isle to get more dreamers to bring to Oridon, and while they're leaving, Hades almost breaks through the barrier, causing widespread panic in Oridon. Mal, for whatever reason, decides that they need to shut the barrier for good, meaning no one can go in or out ever again. I honestly don't know why Mal goes all make Oridon great again on her asses when she gets one taste of privilege, but she says it's because she wanted to protect the life they'd all built on Oridon. Meanwhile, Evie, mainly, but Jay and Carlos too, are the #1 Isle advocates, and they believe for most of the movie that Mal is going to help the kids on the Isle, not lock them away for good. Basically, Mal is one movie behind the character development because of her breakdown in Descendants 2. Everybody else has moved on and actually cares about the Isle. And that's what's really interesting, because I was sitting here trying to break down Mal's character development, and I just realized that she literally is just one movie behind everybody else. Because in the first movie, they all realize that they want to be good, but then in the second movie, Evie, Jay, and Carlos realize that they cannot forget their past just because they want to live these perfect lives in Oridon. Meanwhile, in Descendants 2, Mal is having a breakdown and she's running back to the Isle because that's what she wants to do and that's what she feels she needs to do, but then she ends up going back to Oridon anyway. So now she's back in Oridon and she realizes that she should not take her life on Oridon for granted, So then in the third movie, she's in the place that Evie and Jay and Carlos were in, of trying to forget her past and look forward into her future in Oridon and try to protect that. It's a little bit ridiculous, but I think it makes sense. Anyway, the main villain of D3, Descendants 3, is actually Audrey, Ben's one-time girlfriend that he dumped for Mal in Descendants 1. I love that they made a supposed good girl, the almost queen of Oridon, the villain. Daughter of Sleeping Beauty, the villain. There is an amazing moment toward the end where Hades comes to save Audrey with his magic ember thing, and he makes a comment, something like, so when it's one of you that goes around destroying everything, it's a slap on the wrist. But if it's one of us, lock us up and throw away the key. It shows the privilege that the Oridon kids have over any villain, who are seen as no good criminals that don't deserve second chances. This is all eerily similar to comments made by our own president, Donald Trump, who basically calls immigrants terrorists and rapists and criminals, all while our own justice system lets white boys who actually do rape get a slap on the wrist and 3 months in jail because it might ruin their future. After the VKs go back to the Isle to get Hades' Ember to save, to try and defeat Audrey, because it is the only thing that can help them defeat her when she has Maleficent's staff. Which, again, can we lock up the magical things? Can we please lock up all the scary magical things? None of this would have happened if there was, like, an adequate guard and a lock and a key on this shit. Like, we need to lock this shit up. Anyway, Uma, Harry, Gil, and Celia, daughter of Dr. Facilier from The Princess and the Frog, help the VKs and Ben save Oridon from Audrey's evil reign. Then Mal changes her mind, and suddenly she wants to be queen of both the Isle and Oridon. Ben proclaims that they take down the barrier, and they do, effectively uniting two worlds permanently. This is such a powerful message in the area of build the wall chants and the demonizing of people seeking refuge from countries who are suffering and struggling that the US had a hand in destroying. Oridon locked the villains on the Isle and let them rot there, demonizing their people, and forgave nothing, but they finally righted their wrong by bringing down the barrier for good. These movies, over the course of 6 years, have done nothing but unite families and children in their shared love of the characters and the story. It's just so cool to see that kids will be seeing this message that the president and many of their parents warned them about, truly aren't all that different from us. The people trying to come into this country aren't evil, they aren't villains, they're just Evie's and Carlos's and Uma's trying to have a better life. I'm just constantly blown away by the impact and the messages these movies share with the world, telling such a young group of people to love who you are, embrace your past, and love others is so important in our world, and it's so nice to see it be done in such a fun way. I hope that every kid who's been a victim of abuse or has suffered sees these movies, sees that the heroes are people just like them, trying not to be like their parents and succeeding. I doubt anybody who was involved in making these movies will ever see this, but I genuinely want to thank Kenny Ortega, the man behind these movies, for making them, Dove Cameron, Sophia Carson, Boo Boo Stewart, and of course Cameron Boyce, for championing these movies and not being ashamed of them, as so many Disney Channel stars seem to be of their projects. The actors taking them so seriously helps the audience too, and these are movies that are worth being taken seriously. Obviously, besides the amazing storylines, these movies are funny and innocent and cheesy and campy and filled to the brim with love and incredible songs. I mean, seriously, listen to Chillin' Like a Villain from the Descendants 2 soundtrack and tell me that shit doesn't bop. Anyway, next time you see a Descendants movie playing on the Disney Channel, maybe stop and give it a watch. You never know. You just might love it. So that's all I got. But yeah, I just love these movies, and I love these characters, and I love that they genuinely have such good messages for children, but still are so universal to the human experience and to our country and in our world right now. It's just so cool to see that, you know, kids will be growing up like having empathy for others, for people who aren't as fortunate as them, and people who are seeking refuge, and they'll have that empathy even if their parents are Republicans or whatever, because they'll be like, well, you know, Evie and Jay and Carlos and Mal, like, and Uma and all of them, they deserved a better life, and so do all of those people getting stuck in our awful camps and trying to cross the border. So I don't know. I just think it's really, really cool that we have these movies, and that these kids have these movies to look at and to watch and to feel something for these characters. But really, on a less serious note, the soundtracks are literally incredible. Like, there's on the new one, on the Descendants 3 soundtrack, Queen of Mean is one of the best songs. It's so good. Like, Audrey's storyline in this movie is incredible. I kind of glossed over it because I just didn't want to plot summarize the whole damn thing. But Audrey's thing was like, Mal, you stole my life. You stole my boyfriend. I was supposed to be queen, and now you're going to be queen, because they're engaged, even though they're like 17 years old, not even. And so she decides to seek revenge on Mal and on Auradon for turning their back on her. And she sings a song, it's called Queen of Mean, and it's so good. Oh my god, it's so good. And what's so fun too about these movies is that they have so many references to, like, really fun Disney references. Like, there's just so many moments where Gil will say something really funny and stupid, and it's fully a reference to Gaston, and but if you don't really know Gaston, or you don't really know Beauty and the Beast, you might not pick up on it, but it's just another layer that they add to these movies. Like, one of my favorites is when Audrey is singing the Queen of Mean song, and she's about to steal, she's stealing the crown. She wanted to steal the crown of the Queen of Auradon because she wanted it, because she felt that it was hers or whatever. And then the curtains open, and there's Maleficent's staff, fully out in the open. Again, can we please get some security? But anyway, so the staff is right there, and then there's like a green light that comes over the room, and she's like, something is pulling me. It's so magnetic. And she has no control of her body, and she just goes and grabs it. And it is such a great callback to Sleeping Beauty, the movie, the original movie, where she is drawn with Maleficent's like green magical glow to the spindle to prick her finger. Like, it's so good. And the fact that, you know, she steals Maleficent's staff even though she's literally Sleeping Beauty's daughter. It's amazing. It's amazing. Oh, and I also forgot to mention, they have cast so many people of color in these movies and have made so many villains and heroes into people of color. It's really cool to see, especially in the wake of Halle Bailey getting cast as the Little Mermaid. In the wake of all that backlash, you know, they made Sleeping Beauty's mom black, a black woman. Cruella de Vil is black, and so is her son. Uma's black. Oh god, it's like so many villains, but still, I think it's really cool that they made an effort to, you know, try to diversify their Disney pool a little bit, because otherwise it would have just been a bunch of white kids, and that's not like representative of what our world is. And I think that's so cool, because, you know, when you watch all these original Disney movies, it's like, well, where are all the people of color? Where are they? They're not there, and that's the truth. So I think that's really cool. That's something really important as well to see. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I tried not to make it too long. I know it's a little bit boring to just listen to me kind of rant on my own. Hopefully I'll be able to have some guests at some point. That'll be really cool. I'm going back to college in like 2 weeks, so that'll be really interesting if I could get a roommate or two on. But yeah, anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. If you're listening on YouTube, you can comment in the comments below. Let me know what you think about the Descendants movies. Have you seen them? Do you like them? Do you think it's that deep, or are they just Disney movies and I shouldn't really look into them that much? And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, maybe give the podcast a rating. That would be really cool. I would love to hear your feedback. If you're listening on Spotify, you can follow the podcast on Spotify and, be notified and have the next episode in your library the moment it's released. And yeah, if you're listening on YouTube, you can subscribe and like, and that would be really cool. So yeah, but thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.